I'm Vanessa with Ellie and Mac. Welcome back to my sewing room. Today is a stretchacular day where we're going to be talking all things elastic. I'm also going to show you a different technique on how to do shirring. I found this mesh elastic and I'm going to show you how to use it. Let's jump in. So you may not know that Ellie and Mac has employees all over the globe, and we have quite a few people in the Netherlands, and they have this amazing stretch mesh elastic there available to them. And this has been so hard to get stateside, and I'm wondering if it's easier to get in other places, but for some reason, this is just difficult. Now, with that being said, I do not go into a lot of stores I don't go into a lot of sewing stores, so that might be the problem. But I found it, and I'm going to show you how to use it on the Shantelle dress from Ellie and Mac today. So I'm going to show you how to do the shirring with the elastic, and then we're going to talk about all different types of elastic, how to know the recovery on them, the stretch on them, as well as why we pre-stretch and the different types of elastic for different types of purpose. So let me show you all about how I did this shirring on the Chantel. So to have the best success with placing this elastic, I decided that a plaid fabric that was 1 inch would be the best solution for me. Now, as you can see, there's little ribbons of elastic with a lattice, and this is just to help set it up. Now, I have seen this where it's been 2 inches and I could not get it for the life of me, so I decided to do 3 strips of this 1 inch elastic. So instead of marking the lines that you normally use with a shirring thread or with a 1/4 inch elastic, I'm going to be making 1 inch lines all the way across. This is my front bodice, so I have 3 straight lines to put my elastic 1 inch apart. So I did the exact same thing along the back, as well as I marked the 3 lines along the big puffy sleeves because of course I want the big puffy sleeves. Now the elastic around my waistband is 13 inches for the front, and I did 13 inches on the back as well. Now you can see how is going to be stretching quite a bit. I think it's double how many inches it is. I think it's like 23 inches on the full width of this fabric on the waist. And I'm going to be pinning it at the side and the front and the middle. To sew this on, I'm using a middle zigzag stitch, about a 4.10 length millimeters. And then I'm going to be starting at the second thread at the bottom, and this is just an elastic thread, and you can see the lattice along the sides, and I'm going to try to keep that thread in the center as I'm straightening this out and easing it on to my fabric. And it's just a zigzag stitch, so I'm not actually stitching on the elastic thread. I'm actually stitching in between that lattice stitch, and it is quite the stretch here. As you can imagine, it's about 100% stretch here. And so once I get this first stitch on, then I'm good to go to the next row. As you can see here, I got to the end. I'm going to quick back stitch, and then I can start at the beginning again. And this time I'm going to skip the middle thread, and then I'm going to skip the thread closest to where I just sewed, and then I'm going to start down again the center and just lining it up right through the middle. Now here is a different angle, so I'm just going every other thread here, and I'm back stitching at the beginning, and then I'm just stretching it on. So it's pretty easy to do. I don't think it's that difficult. It is time consuming. So along the waist, I did 3 of these, and so with each of these pieces of elastic, there are 4 stitches on there. So it's 4 times 12 for the bodice and for the back, and then it's the same thing on each arm. So it's just rows and rows of this stretching and adding these stitches. But you will see it is the most straight looking shirring I have ever thought I could ever achieve. So I feel like it definitely looks store-bought when I'm done with this, but yeah. This did take some time, but look how beautiful this looks. Just like that 1 row might be enough, or even 2 rows might be enough, but I went all the way for it. And here I'm just steaming it on like you normally would with a normal stretch thread. And then it's time to add my row number 2. So I did the exact same thing on row number 2 as I did on the first one. and then I added the third row. So this is what it looks like when it's all completed with the front shirring. And this is what the back looks like. You can see all those lines of thread, but I was able to do it with my sewing machine without making that horrible sound. So on my back side, I decided to try adding all three at the same time. And so I was just pinning on all three of these elastics. So then I'm going to be sewing the first stitch on every single one of these lines. So let's talk about pros and cons. So pros is this is a very easy way to get straight stitches, especially if you have fabric that lines up with it. It also does not make that terrible sound when you have that thread elastic in and you're able to get nice tight rows, which is what I was looking for. On the other hand, it is time consuming. And it gets harder the more like every row you go because it is a little harder to stretch when you have that many rows. Now here on the sleeves, this does not stretch as much as the 1/4 inch elastic. And so it doesn't look as good as if I would have done the 1/4 inch because after 13 inches, it was just too tight to stretch it. And then you want to make sure that you serge those ends so it's less pokey because that thread is a little pokey. And here's what it turned out. I think this dress is absolutely beautiful. I do wish the sleeves were a little tighter, but they are gorgeous how they turned out. And this elastic, it cost me about $11.99 for 22 yards of it. So I do think it was absolutely worth it. I love how the Chantel turned out. It is a beautiful pattern, and I am so excited to have that dress as the holiday season starts to come around. It is very comfortable, and I do like this elastic, but there is on the ends, it does get a little pokey. It's not too bad. I can handle it, but if you have a texture or your kids do, you might want to make sure that those are kind of nicely pushed in or serged over or even melted so they're not pokey. But overall, I think it was a success. Did it save time? I don't think so. But I got the perfect shirring that I have wanted for years without that dreaded machine sound of my machine trying to pull the elastic up. So I find that a success. But now let's talk about all different types of elastic because I love my elastic. Here's the array of elastic that I love. This is my Picot, or spelled Picot elastic, that you see me use all the time. I love the decorative edge, but it's also a thinner elastic with great stretch and it's very soft. Now, I bought both these at the same time and you can see how much I've used in a year. I use it on everything. It's just amazing. I use it as a decorative detail, and I also use it on so many different applications. So here I'm lining it up at 10 inches to show you what the elastic is, and it stretches all the way to 20 inches. So this has 100% stretch, which is a really great stretch that you're looking for. So you can definitely go a little bit smaller on your waist or wherever you need to because it does have the stretch and it is soft enough that it's not going to be uncomfortable. And as you can see here, the recovery is really good. It's pretty close to the original 10 inches after all that stretching. So that's another thing you want to look for in elastic is what the recovery is. So let's move on to our more normal waistband elastic. So there's our 1 inch, and this is 1.5 inches, and I also have a 2-inch elastic. This elastic folds really easy. It's soft, so it has the potential to roll down as well as roll. And so you want to make sure that you are securing this either into the side seams, you're sewing it on, or you're top stitching on with different rows. But for me, I actually do like this elastic more than the non-roll kind just because I want an elastic that's comfortable. As simple as that may sound, that is what I'm looking for. So let's do the stretch test on this. We have a 10-inch elastic, and as you can see, when I stretch it right here, I'm pre-stretching it just to see what the recovery is. The recovery is about 1/2 inch growth on it, so that's why you always want to pre-stretch because when you're stretching this on and sewing, it's going to also grow more. This is why you normally don't use your actual measurements, but you do like a 90 to 80%. But overall, this fabric is very stretchy and it works really well. for most waistbands. So right here you can see at 10 inches I can get all the way to 19 inches. So it's about a 90% stretch. So it's just a great all-around elastic, and I don't think you need the no-roll elastic because there's so many different ways to secure this, so it's not going to be a problem. And as you can see, I buy it in a bulk because I absolutely love this elastic. Now, this is an elastic that I think a lot of us accidentally buy. This one is the Mandela Clear Elastic, but it's actually it's a strap elastic. So this is actually to hold your garment on to your hanger, and it's not actually for sewing. But I got sucked in and I bought the wrong elastic. And this can happen to you too. And you might want to put this into a swimming suit. But as you can see here, when I pull, it is really hard to get any stretch in this, and the recovery is just so I think that if you're going to buy a clear elastic, I would definitely, this is me pulling with all my I'm like shaking, I would definitely stick to the Dritz brand and maybe not just buy it in bulk, because clear elastic does not last as long as most elastics. So here is some very sparkly fold over elastic. This is used often kind of like a binding. It's used a lot in purse making, but you can use it as a cute detail on apparel, and it's a very nice soft elastic, and the stretch is just phenomenal on it. I think this is 100%, yep, it is stretch. So it is just a very fun stretchy elastic that you can even make it for headbands. This is an interesting elastic that I use for waistbands. As you can see right here, it says dance. And when I see this type of elastic, I actually see it more used for point shoes to help keep your point shoes on, is what I'm guessing. It feels like a very wide bra strap, and I actually use this like normal 1-inch waistband elastic. It is just very comfortable. It's not pulling too tight on my stomach, and you never see it, but it has phenomenal stretch, and it's just not very thick. And so if you don't like to have a really tight elastic, you can try to look for some of this dance elastic. I don't know how hard it's to come by. I just randomly found it, and you can see I bought 2, and I'm so happy I did because it is just phenomenal. I absolutely love that dance elastic. So here's just a normal 1/4-inch elastic, and this one, it has great stretch. And when it calls for the 1/4-inch elastic, like in the waistband, I actually normally do the Picot elastic just because it is softer than this particular elastic. So in the waistband, if it's going to be showing, I want to show that decorative edge as well as I want it to be nice and soft against my skin. So I think that both of these elastics are very interchangeable. But you always need to have the 1/4-inch elastic. It works in so many different areas, whether it's with gathering, with the casing. But if you're using it in the waistband, I tend to go more towards the Picot. So talking about 1/4-inch elastic, I also have this. Most people are going to recognize this from face masks. It's an ultra soft elastic, and it's made out of spandex. So if you have anybody who is allergic to latex, this is a great alternative. And it's just a very soft elastic. Again, if you can't find the Picot, you can totally use this in that waistband gathering. There's a lot of different applications that I use this for, like a loose knit sweater. Instead of using clear elastic, I use this a lot of times in place of clear elastic just because of the softness of it. As you can tell, I like to be comfortable, and this has well over 100% stretch. The recovery is a little bit not as great as with 1/4-inch elastic, but I do love it and I use it often, as you can see with the clear elastic. But yeah, absolutely soft. Definitely, if you have that elastic left over, use it. It is absolutely worth it to have in your stash. Okay, so let's get into something a little fun. So I would like to redo all my workout clothes pretty soon with comfortable elastics because I am over the compression. So this next elastic that I'm showing you is one that you actually sew on to show. So this works not only the elastic, but it works as the waistband as well. And a lot of fabric companies sell this in lots of different designs, and it's just really fun, and it gives your clothes a little
designer look and just an extra detail, and it also makes it a lot easier because you're not doing the waistband and having to top stitch it. So the thing with this elastic is the recovery is just not as great. Now here is some elastic where it's the no fold elastic, no roll elastic, and as you can see, it is hard to fold this in half because it is incredibly hard. And so like thick. And so for me, I only use this when it absolutely calls for this type of elastic. And as you can see, the stretch is okay on it and the recovery is really good on it, but I don't want to be squeezed. I want something to be soft if it's going to be around my waist. So if this is some place where it's not going to bother me being a little bit more constrictive, then I am completely fine using it. But for the most part, I'm going to pick one of these other elastics that's going to be a little bit more comfortable. But I do have it in 1/2 inch. So back to this decorative stretch fabric. I just want to show you the stretch on this. And so this is why we always test our stretch. So as you can see, it's only stretching about 5 inches. So that's only a 50% stretch. So if I were to take off, 6 inches off my waist, it is going to be squeezing me. So you only need to take off, probably you only want to do like a 90% stretch on that or less.
Okay, so there you have it, all my elastics. I hope you learned some special things about what elastics can do and the different types of textures. And if you come across any of these, definitely, like if you come across Picot, get it. If you happen to see this dance elastic, definitely get it. These are some of my favorite elastics that you might not see very often. But thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. A like and subscribe would be wonderful, but most importantly, make sure you have a great day. Catch you next time.